Here we go. Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. Happy Thursday, everybody. My name is Harrison Graham here with another live show for all of you. We heard from the three coordinators today, Declan Doyle, Dennis Allen, and Richard Hightower. We'll react to that. Another news item. Plus, you guys asked for it. I got my mock offseason for the Bears. We outlined the salary cap situation, some potential roster cuts, free agency, draft, extensions, all of it. We've got it all covered here on today's show. All right, shout out your city. Let us know where you guys are tuning in from. And we'll get some shout outs going in the live chat. Let's see here. We are live an hour early today. We were ready to go. Press conferences earlier. So let's just go. We're ready. We got Juan in Chicago. Motivational Moxie in Dallas, Soldier Bear in Siloam Springs. We got Rebecca in Fort Myers, Diego in Chicago. We got Jacob in Ottawa, Club Dub in Corona. HG, what's good? What's up, Sheesh? What's up? We got Jeff in Portland, Mike in Wake Forest, Denny in Grand Rapids. Let's see, Sup in Ann Arbor. Silent in Buckeye, Arizona. Let's see, Dave in Knoxville, Tennessee. Sawyer in Oklahoma City. Let's see, Lord is in Minneapolis. Wisco in Tulsa. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We also got to thank some sponsors here. Shout out to our friends over at PrizePicks, the best daily fantasy sports app in North America with more than 10 million users and counting. Is PrizePicks. Daily fantasy made easy. Get signed up today at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get a $50 bonus when you set your first lineup for just $5. You want to have a good chance of winning your first lineup? Use this freebie. Patrick Mahomes, half a passing yard. You can pair that with something else if you just want to do a two-player entry or halfway home to a win. Of course, the more players in your lineup, the bigger payout you could potentially get. You can get up to 1,000 times your money on certain lineups right now. Turn $10 into 10,000. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Code CLNS. Take advantage of the $50 bonus when you first play for just $5. We are also sponsored by GameTime. Shout out to GameTime for sponsoring today's show. Tonight's the night. If you want to go see Disney on Ice, you can do so at the United Center. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. That is what they are known for. As of recently, you could get in for just about $50. Haven't checked in the last few hours, but chances are closer to that event, going to get even better prices. So check that out. You can also go to a Bulls game, Blackhawks. You want to go to the big game here in about 10 days, get your tickets with Game Time. Right now, use code CHATSPORTS when you sign up and create an account. Get $20 off your first purchase only at Game Time with code CHATSPORTS. Terms do apply. What time is it? It's Game Time. All right, we got Twinquist battling a little cold here. You know, Colin, I don't know if I forgot this last year or if it's just more excessive this year. When you've got a toddler at home who goes to daycare in the winter, you're just never fully healthy. This is like my third. I'm not like sick. Like I don't feel as bad as I did the last two times, but I'll tell you what, I would say for the last 2 months, I have been more under the weather than not. It has been a rough go for your boy here.
Never healthy, you say?
Never healthy.
You're basically Tevin Jenkins now.
Well, except I play. I play through it, and no slight at Tevin. He's battling like real injuries. I just have illnesses, but yeah, it's for any parents out there, you know how it is. It is what it is. But Twinquist, how cool would it be if the Bears won the Super Bowl in their 40th year Super Bowl anniversary? LFG and Bear Down. Yeah, next year, 40 years since 1985, be the 2025 season. So, be awesome. I'm not setting my expectations at Super Bowl, but hey, why not?
Why not? Right?
Why not think big?
Why not us?
Why not us? We got Andres. Rumors have it that Waldron is heading to Jacksonville. I did see that a little bit ago. Find how both teams are potentially getting the other team's hated OC, but obviously won't be OC with the new team.
He said he meant funny, not find.
Funny, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I know I saw a lot of Jags Twitter last night. Press Taylor sucks. What an awful hire for the Bears. Yeah, he's going to be like fourth in the pecking order. Remember last year when Thomas Brown got elevated to OC and they were asking him about his relationship with Caleb, and he was like, honestly, I haven't spent that much time with him. I think some of these roles we think are bigger than they actually are. I'm not saying they're not important, but Press Taylor, kind of like Declan Doyle, but even in a smaller role, not calling the plays. It's Ben Johnson's offense. It's, hey, can you do this task for me? Hey, what did Kansas City's defense do last week against this type of look? Can we exploit it? Like, that's what a lot of these roles are for. Like, it's to pitch into the game plan on a weekly manner. Doesn't mean it's not important. Doesn't mean it's not these hires don't count. It just means that they count less. Like, if this offense struggles, there will be like Press Taylor. I don't even know how far down the list of reasons he could possibly be. Reason number one would be either Ben Johnson or Caleb Williams, along with offensive line play, I would guess. Then it goes from there. Then maybe you start wondering, maybe 28-year-old Declan Doyle wasn't a great fit. Maybe these receivers aren't playing that well. Like, I don't think you get to Press Taylor, like, on one hand of reasons, right? So, but yeah, it is interesting. Waldron, I think Waldron in, like, a pass game coordinator role would probably be a fine hire. Like, he worked under Sean McVay and had a good reputation, did some decent things in Seattle, just obviously wasn't a good fit as the Bears play caller. And I think more importantly, to help grow and develop a rookie quarterback. So, that's a long-winded way of saying Press Taylor, Shane Waldron, if they're both pass game coordinators, I actually think for those roles, those are probably pretty good hires. So, okay, Tito. Saul Poles was looking at the running backs at the Senior Bowl. Should we be worried that they might want Genty at 10, only if they beef up the line in free agency? Are you asking from a should we be worried that, like, are you pro wanting Genty or anti? Because Genty's not the Senior Bowl, so I think you're asking from a standpoint of, are you worried they're not going to draft Genty unless the O-line gets addressed in free agency? Well, I'm in the camp of, like, I'm not against Genty at 10, but, like, I'm not knocking down that door. My preference, and we'll get to my mock offseason in a bit, is to draft a running back on day 2, whether it's with one of your second-round picks or a third-round pick. I think that's the sweet spot. I love Ashton Genty, but there's also about 8 other running backs I think you can get on day 2 that I really like as well. So that would be my approach. To me, if you do end up taking Genty in round 1, I'd rather trade down and try to get him later. Like, if you trade down to, like, 17 or something and he's there and you feel good about your trenches and you like the options on day 2, okay, I could get behind that. I think at 10, though, I don't love that for this team. Not saying he's not worthy of the 10th pick, but I just want to make sure ducks are in a row with all the other positions. All right, Club Dub. He's making it rain here on Chicago Bears Now, and he's bringing the boom! Shout out to Club Dub. He says FGB and Bear Down. Shout out to you, Club Dub.
Shout out to you, Club Dub. Always real one. Get the booms in the chat.
He's always bringing the boom.
Get the booms in the chat for Club Dub.
He's always bringing the boom. Shout out to Club Dub. Bringing the heat.
Bringing the heat as we got Fernie.
He says, draft Mike Green at 10 if Abdul Carter's gone. He looked pretty dominant at the Senior Bowl, so much so that he, along with a couple other players, left. I think they were advised by their agents, like, you got what you needed out of this week. Go get ready for the Combine. So, I will say, historically, Dennis Allen likes guys with longer arms. He's on the shorter arm of the spectrum. He's only like in the 8th percentile for defensive ends, but we'll see. He's pretty interesting. I'll be curious to see where he goes, Colin, because the things he's got working against him are small school, slightly smaller than ideal defensive end.
Yeah, again, you can't take too much stock in the Senior Bowl and everything. And look, there's still a lot of tape that things got to go through, the measurables, the combine, all of that. But I think Mike Green's really proven that he's a force in this, draft class. I wouldn't take him over Abdul Carter or anything, but you think about, potentially another edge rusher after that. I mean, he's certainly kind of in the discussion, come, middle, maybe late first round. So, yeah, I think he did what he kind of came there, like you said, came there to do. So
I think we do pigeonhole guys sometimes too much. Like, I remember the Cowboys did this years ago. Like, T.J. Watt, he's too small for a traditional 4-3. We're going to take Taco Charlton. So I'm not saying that, But I do wonder in this case, small school, smaller frame, like, is he just a better 3-4 outside linebacker than a 4-3 defensive end? I'm not against drafting him at all. I think 10 is probably about, like, that's when the conversation around him probably starts, right? I mean, that he feels like somewhere between 10 and 20, 10 and 25. So I don't think he's in that elite group of non-QB prospects in this draft, but he's probably near the top of that second tier. Like, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he went ahead of, like, a Kelvin Banks or someone like that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I definitely think Carter's going ahead of him, but after that, he could be the second edge rusher off the board. I think that's on the table. I think Mykel Williams will be in that discussion as well. And that's kind of like the art, like, that'll be like an interesting debate. Like, Mykel Williams, 6'5". I don't know what his arm length is, but I assume it's longer than 32 and change arms that Mike Green has. So, teams might debate measurables versus production there. So it'll be interesting to see, how the Bears have that stacked up if we ever find that out. All right, who's winning the Super Bowl? We're 10 days away. KC for the Chiefs, PHI for the Eagles. Who's winning the bowl? What say you?
Who's winning it?
Who's winning it? I got the Chiefs 31-24 for now. I do think Brandon Graham provides a lift if he can go. So
he does. I'm interested to see. I got the Chiefs as well. Dude, they pulled off the behind the back pass freaking in the preseason. I've been saying it ever since, and this team was just destined. I mean, they really just never seem like the game's out of their grasp. Never. And that goes to the leadership with obviously Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, the entire crew. I'd hope Philly wins it. I think it'd be a great story. Also, the weirdest kind of coaching start for Nick Sirianni. You could have made the argument that if he would have blown that lead against the Rams at home, maybe, I mean, I don't know if it would for sure happen, but, like, there's discussions of, like, is this our guy? And now he's about to be he's back, he's in 2 Super Bowls in 3 years and potentially going to win his first one.
And his win-loss record is tremendous.
It's like,
he feels like an outlier in terms of just, like, the talking points around him versus, like, what the record is, like, how much credit does he actually get compared to other coaches. But I don't know how you bet against the Chiefs in this spot. I think Philly's got a better overall team, but I just think if you're the Chiefs, if you're within a score going into the first or fourth quarter, you feel pretty good about your chances because of number 15. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
See what happens. Marcus says Chiefs. Jacob going with the Eagles. Lacora Chiefs. Joe Schultz going with Philly. Radness says Saquon's going to go off. See, I don't think he'll go off. I think he'll have a good game, but I think you give Spags that extra week. I would be shocked if his priority in this game wasn't to slow down Saquon. Now that might leave A.J. Brown on some islands, but shadow with McDuffie, take your chances there. I mean, Spags has some chess pieces that he can play here, so it's gonna be interesting. I think it's a good matchup. I know there's like this narrative that Chiefs Eagles, getting tired of the Chiefs. No one likes the Eagles. I think it's gonna be a pretty awesome game. I mean, I really do. So I can't wait for it.
Yeah, and I mean, by the way, speaking of McDuffie, every year he's been in the NFL, all he knows is going to the Super Bowl.
Oh, I mean him.
That's
I mean,
ridiculous.
Pacheco's only played in the Super Bowl. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Karlaftis.
Yeah.
They don't know anything else.
Yeah, it's very true.
If they've been on the team as long as Mahomes has, they don't know anything else but the AFC Championship or further.
That's very true.
Like, this is
AFC
not normal.
overtime or further.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Crazy. Who do you guys want the Bears to draft in the first round?
Here we go.
Who's your top guy? Let's hear it.
I'm interested to see kind of what the comments are saying, because obviously we're going to be talking about who you have, Harry, going in the first round. The Bears, honestly, depending on how they attack free agency, will, determine or kind of factor into how they attack the draft. But I'm interested to see what the chat has to think.
What say you? I've got like an early grouping of players.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think it depends on free agency. And it always does, but I think even more so this year.
Yeah.
Like, if the Bears sign at least 2 offensive lineman starters in free agency, I think that opens the door up to other positions. If they don't, it almost feels like they're guaranteed to take an offensive lineman in the first round. So we'll see what happens. Dawson says Will Campbell and play him at center. I don't think you're playing Will Campbell at center. Guard maybe, but I don't think center.
Yeah, I agree.
Genty from SBT, Campbell from Trevor, Kelvin Banks or Josh Simmons from Jacob, any O lineman from Caden, trade down for Brian. Let's see. We got Rashard Smith as this year's Gibbs. I haven't talked about him much, but yeah, out of SMU, he's pretty electric. Trade up for Mason Graham. I would only do that if he slipped like past 6. Then I would be intrigued. But I'm not going to trade up to like 4 to get him.
That's fair.
But if he's there at like 7 or 8, I'm like,
Do you pull the trigger?
It's tempting at that point.
Yeah.
It's tempting at that point. Especially if you get an edge in free agency, because like he could be like the last piece to your D line at that point.
Jacob says, "Give me Cullen in round 1." What
Let's
position
go.
y'all think I would play if the Bears drafted me?
You'd be a better fullback than Doug Kramer.
Yeah, I would. I would tell them not to give me the ball.
Well, you would also, what do they call it? Not check in, but what's the
Reports the reps.
report? Thank you.
Yeah, I would report.
That's what Dylan says. Fullback.
That's what I'm saying.
Did you play football at all growing up? What position did you play?
I was center. I was a long
I could
snapper.
see center and long snapper.
Played a little outside linebacker.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Were you downhill? Were you blitzing or were you
Oh
covering?
yeah, I was definitely there. You do not want to see
3-4
me in
outside
coverage.
linebacker. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're playing downhill. Downhill. All right, Dennis made a new offseason mock if y'all care. DMs are open, Dennis.
I'm about to say I don't know if you sent that to me, Harry. I know you sent me a couple, Dennis, but
I put one together today. We're gonna get to it here in a bit, so stay tuned for that.
Calling it tight end.
Tight end.
I could not.
I mean, could you be more productive than Gerald Everett was this year? That's not off the table.
It's not. I'd be a more willing blocker than Gerald Everett. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, no question. No question. All right, let's get into this thing. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. I know we're live a little bit earlier today. You guys are real ones. Hit that like button. Get over 400 people watching. We can get to 100 likes. Come on. Hit that like button. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Helps us get more Bears fans in here so we can party and spread the content together. So like the video to show us some love. And here's what we got coming up on today's show. We got some news, and I react to the press conferences from earlier today. Dennis Allen, Declan Doyle, and our good pal Richard Hightower. We will answer questions. We need a lot of them in there. You can ask about the draft, free agency, coaching staff, Senior Bowl, hashtag Bears, Super Chat. Fire away in the comment section. And my Bears mock offseason is here. You guys asked for it. I don't think I've ever done this where I've done like perfect offseason, which kind of is this, but this is more of a specific look at the Bears salary cap and roster situation and manage what kind of players they're going to bring here specifically. So excited to do this, and should be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. It's all coming up next here on Chicago Bears Now. It's time for another episode of Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Ian Cunningham is the Bears assistant GM, going to become the Jaguars GM. We dive into that in just a moment. Plus, we heard from all three Bears coordinators, Declan Doyle, Dennis Allen, and Richard Hightower. Got some reaction to that as well. Let's go ahead and get started with Ian Cunningham. Is he set to become the Jags general manager? This has kind of been rumored for several days now, but when Adam Schefter enters the fray, I think it at least enters that real possibility stage. Here's what he had to say about the Jags GM search. He said, quote, "A name we need to have on our radar is Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham. He's going to be a candidate for the Jaguars GM job. Some would say he might be the leading candidate. I don't know if he's the leading guy, but he's certainly going to be in the mix." And that is the only name I've heard a national reporter link to the Jags. Doesn't mean there are others. I'm sure they'll interview other candidates, but Ian Cunningham is in the mix, like Adam Schefter said. And there's been a lot of buzz. Like I said, a lot of internet chatter about this before Schefter jumped into the fray. And quite frankly, I hope he gets the job for a multitude of reasons. One, he's got a lot of experience in this league with the Eagles under Howie for a long time, Poles' right-hand man for a few years. He's had GM interviews before. He's been the Titans finalist for a couple years, had a chance to get the Cardinals job a couple years ago. I think he's ready for this opportunity. And look, selfishly, I want to get some draft picks. I think if you told me you were going to get 3 years out of Ian Cunningham with Ryan Poles, I would have taken that. Look, if he's back, if that's the worst-case scenario, that's not a bad thing because we know he's a talented executive. But you get a third-round pick in this year's draft and a third-round pick in next year's draft. And to me, when I look at this 2025 NFL draft, day 2 is the sweet spot. So if you get an extra bullet in the chamber in that third round to maneuver around or stay there and pick or whatever, or maybe that helps you move up or down at some point in the draft, I'm all for that. The more picks you have, especially in the higher rounds, the more kind of variables you have at your disposal to move around, which we know Ryan Poles has been prone to do at times. So I hope that he gets that job for himself personally because I think he's worthy of it, but also for the Bears' sake. I'd like to get a couple of extra borderline premium draft picks. So what say you? Be honest. Do you want Ian Cunningham to get the Jags job? Type Y for yes if you do. If you're like, no, I want him back working with Ryan Poles, type in for no. I don't think either's a bad case scenario, but I think with Ben Johnson entering the fray, new direction, his involvement in the roster, I think this would be a good time. Plus, Jeff King, I think, is ready to take a step forward and be Poles' number 2 man. Okay, let's dive into these coordinator press conferences. Dennis Allen, Declan Doyle, Richard Hightower, all speaking to the media today. And we'll start with Dennis Allen because he's the veteran. He's the big name here when it comes to these Bears coordinators. And before we get to this first quote, I do want to mention this, and I'm sure Lions fans are going to be pissed off. Dennis Allen was asked directly, hey, what's the connection? When did you get in touch with Ben, yada, yada? And he said at some point toward the end of the season, Ben reached out and said, hey, would you be interested if I get a head coaching job in being my DC? And he said he would. Obviously, there's connection with Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, all that stuff because Glenn coached under Allen. Campbell was in New Orleans for a while as well. Lions fans freaking out. See, Ben wasn't focused. He was building a coaching staff. That's kind of how this works. It just is what it is. Here's Dennis Allen on his plans for the Bears defense. Quote, we want to be an attacking, aggressive style of defense. We want to take the fight to the offense and not let the offense dictate the tempo to us. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to challenge everything. We're going to play the game the right way. We're going to play a tough, physical brand of football. I think the brand of football you've come to expect at the Chicago Bears. And, of course, he's tying in the history there. Like when I think of the Bears, you think big-time physical defense. Now, obviously, while we want that, we obviously want the offense to do its part for once as well. But when I hear that, a couple of things stand out to me. Things I expect from Dennis Allen, watching him over the years and just listening to his words. One, more pass rush production. I don't know if that means more blitzing. We've talked about his blitz rate recently. He's been as low as 18%, which is toward the bottom of the league. He's been as high as 33%, which is top third of the league. Usually he's somewhere in the 20s, which is kind of league average. So I don't think you're going to get a Brian Flores level of blitzing. But I think the attacking type of defense you're going to see in the aggressiveness is more man coverage. Jalen Johnson, which that's what he's better at, quite frankly, can get back to just – he might even start shadowing number 1 receivers in this type of system, which I'm really excited about. And he specifically shouted out Kyler Gordon. He said Kyler Gordon is an outstanding nickel corner. And when I think of the word attack, aggressive, Kyler Gordon, I mean, remember early last season and in the preseason in particular, he was just lighting people up. They would blitz him, and then for several weeks, they just wouldn't do that anymore, just dropping him into coverage. It's like, when I think of Kyler Gordon, it's like, hey, bring this guy in the box. He will hit people hard. You can bring him on cat blitzes. Obviously, he can cover. Get the full arsenal out of this kid because he's a very, very good player and a very, very capable player. I would not be shocked at all if he was someone who got a contract extension this offseason, as he is now eligible for that. And it seems that Dennis Allen identifies him as a player that he can get pretty creative with, which has me excited. So, obviously, I'm not going to hit every single thing all three of these guys said, but those two stood out to me, talking about when Ben Johnson reached out to him and his willingness to come to the staff and his aggressive and attack mindset of how he wants to run this defense. I think those are both very, very exciting things. All right, before we get to Declan Doyle, let's tell you guys about our sponsor, PrizePicks. Shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show, as they are the #1 daily fantasy sports app in North America. 10 million users and counting, available in more than 30 states. If they are available in yours, you should go check them out. The way PrizePicks works is simple. You can pick new lineups, multiple every day, however many you want, as long as you have money in your account. 2 or more players, and then you pick more or less based on the stat projections available. If you're doing football players, touchdowns, fantasy score, receiving yards, passing yards, whatever the case may be, basketball, points, rebounds, blocks, assists, steals, soccer, goals, saves, all that type of stuff. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get started today. And you got a little freebie for the big game. Patrick Mahomes, half a passing yard. If you can do lineups as few as 2 players, you're halfway home with this one. Pair that with something else, you can win some money. And with certain lineups right now, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Yes, $10 can turn into 10,000. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. That code CLNS will get you a $50 bonus when you sign up and play for just $5. Once you play a $5 lineup, doesn't matter if you win or lose, you are going to get a $50 bonus into your account immediately. Okay, Declan Doyle. Obviously, I would say out of all the hires, although weirdly enough, some with Press Taylor, just not a relevant enough position on the staff as pass game coordinator to freak out about, in my opinion. But this has been the one that's caught people's attention, right? 28 years old, was a student coach at Iowa 6 years ago. Like, he's young. And he came off as young today. No surprise. He's 3 years younger than me. I thought he was nervous at first. And then he settled in after 4 or 5 minutes. Look, it's something he's going to have to get used to. He's the offensive coordinator. You talk to the media every week during the season. So that's just how that goes. It was also on Zoom, so that's kind of a bizarre first setting. Maybe it would have been better if it wasn't. Who knows? But I thought, like, once he started talking about football, X's and O's, philosophies, even if there was still a slight nervous energy, you're like, okay, this guy knows football. He's kind of a football nerd, and that's kind of what we've learned, right, over the last few days and since he's been hired is, okay, why would you bring this 28-year-old? Well, he's an energetic kind of football nerd. That's the best way I could describe him based on what we know so far. And he was asked, hey, what do you expect your job to look like? And he said this: my job is going to be to organize and detail the game plan, especially early in the week, he mentioned. Do the work that Ben Johnson won't have time to do now that he's the coach. And there's more detail and nuance in there, but he's basically saying Ben Johnson as a play caller, when he wasn't the head coach, he had all the time in the world to just focus on that, watch opposing team film, get into all the X's and O's of game plan. While he's still going to be able to do some of that, he needs someone he can trust and to put in the hours and to be organized. That's what my job is. That is basically what he is saying here. I also like this. He echoed Johnson's sentiments that we heard at his press conference in terms of designing and building this offense around Caleb Williams and the Bears' current offensive personnel. He even used an example with Bo Nix. He was like, look, we installed things with Bo due to his mobility that we had never run before. And he said we because he had been with Sean Payton. He knows his offensive principles, and that's something he's grown with the last 5 or 6 years because he's been with Payton for 5 or 6 years. And he even pointed out they hit a touchdown against the Chiefs on a new install that had never been in their offense before. So I like that he had tangible examples and hand-on experience of like, hey, we adapted our offense to what Bo Nix could do, and we're going to do the same thing with Caleb Williams with what he can do. So I really like that quite a bit. I don't need Declan Doyle to light up the press conference every week. I think that's more important for the head coach. Doesn't have to be amazing for Ben Johnson either. Just be passable. And again, I thought as it went on, it was fine, so I'm not going to freak out over it. Again, when you hear him talk football, it's like, okay, this guy knows football. He's a hungry kid, and he's going to grow into this role under Johnson, and Ben's going to take him under his wing. And look, multiple people have reported that they believe this guy has head coach in his future. So we'll see what that looks like down the road. He also was asked about what he thinks about Caleb Williams, and he was like, yeah, obviously I haven't been able to dive into his rookie film too much yet, but based on what he's seen and obviously what he watched in college, he said the arm talent is crazy. I mean, it's very impressive. He's a very impressive player, but his second act, the ability to evade the pocket, his ability to create is a special thing. And again, kind of pointing out, like, yeah, this is something he's really good at. We are not going to eliminate that from his game. We're going to lean into that while obviously helping him evolve as a pocket passer as well. Do you feel better or worse about the Declan Doyle hire after today? If you watch the presser, if not, I'd say go watch it. B for better, W for worse. I feel about the same. Seems like he's energetic. He's going to have to grow into this role. He's definitely a 28-year-old. Came across as that. But if he fits in the locker room, if players respect him, and if Ben Johnson trusts him, it's really all that matters at the end of the day. So I would say I feel roughly about the same as I did before the presser. Okay, Richard Hightower, he, of course, is retained as the special teams coordinator. I like the move. 5th in DVOA last year. They had that bump in the road in the middle of the season with the field goal protection, but that got ironed out. A lot of creativity with the return in Week 18. Get the game winner there. Obviously, kicker and punter and return game were solid pretty much the entire season other than that bump, like I mentioned, with the field goal team. Here's what I liked about Hightower. I'm not going to get super deep into the special team press conference. His first question he was asked was, hey, we haven't talked to you since the Green Bay game. What were the emotions like after Cairo hit that game winner to send you off into the offseason on a high note? And he basically said, I'm paraphrasing, I appreciate the question, but I'm fired up about 2025 and working with Ben Johnson and getting started here. And I wouldn't have blamed him at all if he was like, man, that was an awesome moment. We had lost 10 games in a row. That was great for Thomas and all that. And I'm sure he feels some of that, but he's like, hey, man, we're full steam ahead. Like, I'm glad we won that game, but last year was unacceptable. Ben Johnson, I cannot wait to work for this guy. He's hungry as a head coach. I'm going to do my part to help him win, is essentially what he said. So I like that mindset. No one was more fired up than me that they beat Green Bay. They hadn't beaten them in over 2,000 days. It's over with, though. You went 5-12. All the coaches got fired, basically, except for Hightower. And now it's on to 2025. And that's how it should be, because there's only one team standing at the end of the season, and the Bears are not one of them. So I think that's the right attitude to have, and I think that's the right mindset for him to have. Like, hey, I'm happy to be back here. I didn't know if I was going to be back. Ben, he said him and Ben hit it off from the jump, and that they were on the same page with a lot of things. So you like that synergy, and I like having someone in a notable role back from last year because he can help Ben understand some of the things that may have gone wrong throughout that season, something to learn from, and obviously hit the reset button here in 2025. So there you have it, my reaction to the 3 pressers and obviously the Ian Cunningham update as he appears to be in the mix to be the Jaguars GM. My name is Harrison Graham. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. We'll continue to pump out content here on Chicago Bears Now. All right, hashtag Bears or Super Chat. I've had to sneeze for like 10 minutes. So give me a moment here.
Yeah. I'm about to say, I can, here, I'll okay.
Oh, God.
I'll hop on screen. There you go, Harry. I'm impressed you made it through that PrizePicks read, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I was wiping my nose half the time. It was a scene.
Oh, man, but yeah. Here, I'm going to turn myself down a little bit. There we go. Yeah, use hashtag Bears or Super Chat. Harry, take your time, no worries. Okay, so Dennis did send me his offseason mock.
How long is it compared to the last one?
It's longer. It is longer. Dennis, you outdid yourself, my friend. You really did.
Dennis is a real one, man.
That he is.
Dennis is a real one.
I'm going to try to see if I can maybe get, like, highlights from it. Or just, like, get
bullet
cliff
points.
notes. Yeah, exactly. Let me see.
If you can get a List 5 logo.
Yeah, built right now. Yep.
Oh, man.
Dude, like, I'm honestly impressed. I really am. Let's see. I will say, we're doing a segment later, Dennis. You and Harry have some similarities.
Okay.
And I do mean plural.
Okay. I like it.
Okay.
Oh, man.
I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm going to pass this along to Harry so he can read it. Because honestly, if we went through that, I mean, that's a whole nother live show. That'd be the length of a watch party. But Harry can look at that later whenever we're off. But we appreciate it as always.
Shout out to Dennis, man.
Feel free to paraphrase. I don't know how I could paraphrase that, my friend. But shout out to you, man.
Hashtag Bears Super Chat. There's a few questions coming in there. I see the Igbuka question.
Yep.
We got JMJ, Cornelius. We can throw that in the mailbag too.
Yeah,
that works. Juan Espinoza, Xavier Soup. Ryan, I'm good. It's I have a 22-month-old who's at daycare, and that's just kind of how it goes in the winter. He basically at that age, they basically have a chronic cold for like 4 months, and it crosses into myself and my wife as well. So it is what it is. It's been something different every time. This one's more of a runny nose. One time, I honestly think the first time I just had the flu because I felt terrible. Mm-hmm. And then the second time was more of like a cough. So, yeah, exactly, Ryan. Exactly. But he's worth it. He's a legend. He's a legend. All right. Let's get to this mailbag, and then we will get to our mock offseason. Hashtag Bears or Super Chat. It's mailbag time here on Chicago Bears Now. I am your host, Harrison Graham. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. The Bears85 says, if the Bengals try to keep Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, which is what Joe Burrow wants, could they trade Trey Hendrickson? And I assume you're asking if the Bears could trade for him. Remember last offseason, Trey Hendrickson actually wanted a pay raise and requested a trade. None of that ended up happening. Well, now he has 1 year left on his deal at $16 million. For a team that trades for him, he gets a little bit more than that, I believe. Which for what he produces, which is 2 straight 17.5 sack seasons, he's a DPOY finalist this year, is quite frankly a ripoff. I mean, he should be making at least $25 million. Now, the trouble for him is he's going to be 31 next season. So, like, is he getting like a 4 or 5 year, $25, $30 million contract? I mean, he might. We saw Chris Jones get a deal like that at 30, but interior defensive tackle, pass rusher, unique at his position. I don't know if that's the same. I do think you would at least have to give him a 2 to 3 year extension, which I would be open to doing, even if it is like 25 a year, because you could morph the 16 you would owe him next year into like a new, say, 4-year deal. Maybe he gets, let's say you add $75 million to the deal, right? He gets 16 this year. So you owe him 4 for 91. So for the Bears, it's like 22.5 a year. That's actually not that bad. It's kind of what they did with the DJ Moore contract because he had 2 years left on his deal. So I could see something like that. What would it cost in a trade? I don't think I'm trading the number 10 pick for a 31-year-old. Trade a day 2 pick, 39 or 41. I'd trade one of those. So, I'll ask you that. Would you trade a day 2 pick? Probably one of the second rounders. I don't think a third rounder would get it done. For Trey Hendrickson, especially if it's 39, I mean, it's close to a first-round pick. Type Y for yes, type in for no. If you told me 39 or 41 straight up for Hendrickson to pair with Montez Sweat, give him a 2 or 3 year extension, I'd probably be in because then the rest of your offseason could just be O-line heavy. Okay, Caden Goodvaldson, any centers from big-time schools in the draft? It's not a great center draft, but I will say this. Gray Zabel is on my radar, the North Dakota State offensive lineman. Played mostly tackle in college, but his arm length under 33 inches, probably kicking inside in the NFL. He's practiced at both guard and at center during the Senior Bowl week. I'm filming this before the game itself, so depending on when this goes out or when you watch this, we'll see if he plays center at all during the game. But if teams feel comfortable with him at center, like to me, 39-41 if you're the Bears, to get him to be your center, that could be interesting. Now, I would still probably lean in like the Drew Dalman direction in free agency, get a proven guy in here, but I'd be okay with Zabel on day 2, and then maybe you re-sign Coleman Shelton for cheap as a bridge guy while Zabel develops. So keep an eye on that. I think he's an intriguing prospect in this draft. Jacob Clifton, appreciate the super chats, guys. Love the show, FGB. Question: would you tag Jenkins if you couldn't get a guard in free agency? No, I'm not tagging Tevin Jenkins. I don't know what that number is, but I think it's too high of a number. I want to say it's like 13, 14 million. I can double check that, but I would not tag him. I don't think you need to tag him. Like, if you want to bring him back, you can engage in those negotiations. I think the tag number's too high for any team to even engage with you. So I'm not going that route. I don't really think he'll be back. I'll stick to what I've been saying. I'm letting him hit the market, and if he gets signed in that early waiver free agency, gets a good contract, hey, congrats to Tevin. Best of luck to him. If the first wave comes and goes and the market dries up a bit and he and his reps revisit the Bears and that price maybe is under $10 million, okay, we can talk, but I'm not going to give him like PFF has him for 3 for $40 right now, so I don't think I'd go that route. Tag is 25.1 for a guard. Oh, wow. Colin's telling me $25 million for – so, yeah, that's not even sort of a starter in my opinion. So, yeah, it won't be a tag situation. Okay. We're almost there. 116,000 subscribers. You guys have been crushing it. Help us get there. We do these mailbags every live show, Monday and Thursday during the offseason. Breaking news situations as well, which we've had several of those recently. So, subscribe today, turn on the noties, join us, and get all of our content for 100% free. Okay, we got Cornelius. Who you got in the Super Bowl? Appreciate the deuce. I'm going to go Chiefs 31-24. I could change that score, change that prediction. I don't think anything could happen unless there's a Mahomes injury before the Super Bowl that would have me not pick them to win the game. But maybe my score will change, but I like 31-24 right now. All right, Twinquist. Since the Bears now need a physical between the tackles, running back, please make cutting Herbert make sense. Has there been any explanation? Stumped. Look, fair. Now, here's what I'll say. I don't think they were going to re-sign him. So I think their thinking was, well, if we can get something for him, we're not bringing him back. Let's just do it. Now, could you argue that down the stretch he would have been valuable to have on this team? Yes, but was this team going anywhere even if they still had him? Clearly not. That ship had sailed. So it is what it is. I'm not going to harp too much on that because it's not just the physical between the tackles running. It's where are you in your contract? What other things can you do? Herbert's a nice rotation back, but he doesn't pass protect. Other than being an average kick returner, he's not great on special teams, and he doesn't catch the ball that well. So I just want a more dynamic player who, by the way, will be starting a fresh 4-year contract in a rookie running back. So I think that's the thinking from me. If Khalil Herbert was in his second year, I don't think they would have traded him, but he was in a contract year, and Poles had probably already decided he wasn't coming back. Okay, shout out to GameTime for sponsoring today's show. Listen, sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, if you need to get your tickets and get the best prices on the best seats, GameTime is the place to go. I got my dad playoff tickets last year. He had a blast, even though his team got crushed. The Cowboys lost to those FGB folks, unfortunately for him. And, it is what it is. He had a great time. I've used GameTime on several occasions, like the national championship when my TCU Horned Frogs got crushed. So, GameTime's getting me great deals, but not great on-the-field results. That's nothing against GameTime. That's on me. But that's just the luck I've had. But it's been nothing but positive in terms of my experience with GameTime. Buying tickets, getting them in a timely manner, getting a better price than any other ticketing service out there. I encourage you guys to do so. Use the feature GameTime Picks, which will filter out the fluff of thousands of tickets. Narrow down your search time before purchasing those. Download the app, GameTime. Search GameTime in the App Store. Use code ChatSports when you create an account and get $20 off your first purchase only. Terms do apply. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. What time is it? It's game time. Okay, depressed Bears fan, on a scale from 1 to 10, how hot is Ryan Poles' seat going into next season? I'm going to say like a 3, actually. The Bears have not told us, but there's a rumor out there that he got extended, which would make sense to a degree. And what did I say all along? If Ben Johnson is willing to work with Ryan Poles, I'm cool with him being there. But if Ryan Poles prevents you from getting Ben Johnson, then you make a switch. Well, clearly he was cool working with him. So I think at minimum he's here 2 more seasons. The only way he's gone next year, in my opinion, is if next year's somehow worse than this year. Like you're a 3-14 team and there weren't notable injuries to point to. So I expect him to be here for at least 2 more seasons. And if things go well, he's probably here for the foreseeable future, which we should all be fine with if this team starts becoming a playoff team. Caden Goodvaldson, what speedy wide receiver do you have your eyes on? I'll give you one in free agency, one in the draft. Free agency, Marquise Brown. Don't think he'll cost you that much money. Draft, Tez Johnson. He weighs 156 pounds, but he has dominated the Senior Bowl. I think he could be this team's version of Jamison Williams maybe. I don't know if he'll be that dynamic, but he's pretty fun to watch, and he gets open a lot. So, yeah, those are a couple of names to monitor. Name a player that the Bears should go out and trade for. Who's someone out there you want to trade for? Let us know in the comments section of this video. All right, we got a few more here. Soldier Bear, do you think the Bears and fans will be patient for Ben Johnson to get this team on the right track or demand results right away? I'm sure it'll be split, especially the few Justin Fields truthers out there. If Caleb's not in the MVP race and if they're not winning the NFC North, then it's all a disaster. But I think there will be a lot of people that give it patience. Now, obviously, if they're like, it's got to be better than what it was last year, right? I mean, I don't like setting floors of wins, and you just don't know what's going to happen with the schedule when you're catching teams, all that stuff. But, like, you'll know it when you see it. You'll know, like, okay, this team's in the right direction. Last year it was clear by the time they had lost 3 or 4 in a row, which led to 10 in a row, it's like, this ain't going to work. You're going to have to change. Obviously, I don't think there's anything that could happen barring a scandal where Johnson isn't getting multiple years with how much they're paying him. So, they're going to give him a lot of time. Am I going to have at least somewhat high expectations? Yeah, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, if they don't go 13-4, this thing's a disaster. I think there's got to be context to all this stuff. Hit a fresh. What do you think about letting Keenan go and bringing in Pat Bryant? Illinois receiver. Okay, I'll have to look into him. Thank you, producer Cullen. I can answer the first part. I think there's a greater chance than not Keenan's gone. I personally would like to add speed to my number 3 receiver. I'm not completely against Keenan returning, but I just think knowing how Ben Johnson's personnel was in Detroit, I think he will want more speed at receiver. And, Keenan probably makes more sense, for like a Chiefs or a Rams or a team that's in clear win now or else mode, which obviously as Bears fans, we obviously want to win now, but still a young ascending team. I think him going to a veteran quarterback, veteran team makes a lot of sense, and adding speed to this offense makes a lot of sense for Chicago. All right, there you have it. Mailbag in the books. If you have more questions that didn't get answered, you know where to find me, at HGramNFL on Twitter and on Instagram. I check my DMs at least once a week, so we'll get you caught up over there. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Bear down. We got Dennis. If you guys ever wonder why I do this, I'm just a football nerd and probably never make a platform to share my ideas. Really like this channel. I feel you on always being sick. My girlfriend works at a daycare. Oh, man. That's even tougher because she's around, like, tens and dozens of children. So, yeah. First of all, pass the word along if you choose to. That shout out to her. That's a hard job, and she's doing good work. So tell her we appreciate it as a husband of a teacher. Public service is important to me. So shout out to your girlfriend. And yeah, listen, we're always encouraging your ideas. I know you guys send me mock drafts all the time. I try to give you guys feedback on those. So DMs are always open. You guys can always hit Cullen up like Dennis is. So yeah, we appreciate it, and we love the interaction on this show.
100%. And yeah, my mom's a special ed teacher as well. So
nice.
Yeah, so we mutual respect for obviously daycare and everybody that works in the teaching kind of
public education
or whatever. Yeah, yep. Exactly. So.
Buff Cartier, I DM'd you. I knew Dennis got hired. It got leaked. I'll have to check. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of, like, social media leaks, like, this is happening. It's just a matter of when it gets announced. And, obviously, those people were on it, Cullen, because Dennis Allen told us today that Ben Johnson reached out late in the season to see if he was interested, and he said he was. So,
100%.
And the day Johnson got hired, Schefter was like, "Yep, Dennis Allen, be ready for that." So, that's cool though, Buff. Appreciate it. He also said, as Bears fans, we can agree. See, like the spectrum on each side is too far. The people who still think keeping Fields was the way to go, not the case. Where would you be now? He'd be a free agent. You paying him now? I mean, I guess we'll never know how he would have played last year, but I think we would have had a good idea. Very inconsistent. And I don't think trash is fair either. He dealt with a lot here, coaching changes, lack of structure. But I think we saw, and Pittsburgh showed us by going to Russell Wilson, that he kind of just is what he is right now. Now, could he be the next Geno, not Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, Baker success story? I hope he is. Very likable guy. But this cult following he has is a little, and I feel like I hung on longer than others, but by the end of the season and after that Packers game in Week 18 last year and some of those games down the stretch, I was like, you know what? I just got the number one pick. It just feels like a good opportunity to take a swing in a new direction. Doesn't mean Caleb's going to have this Hall of Fame career, but do think it was absolutely worth the swing here.
It was. By the way, on that offensive tag number, that's the projected for 25.1.
Okay.
So
are all linemen booked together or guards and?
I don't know. I specifically typed in offensive guard tag number for 2025 NFL offseason. And that's
that is a lot.
Again, Google's telling me wrong. It's from Orange County Register. Apparently,
it looks like O linemen are all grouped together.
Okay.
That's huge for guards because tackles raise that number up. Because the tag number it's like the average of the 5 highest paid at the position, and no guards make $25 million, but those tackles like Sewell and Trent Williams, they're all like near $30 million. So that's how that number gets elevated. Yeah, there's no scenario where Tevin Jenkins gets tagged at that price tag.
100%.
So.
100%.
Oh, Jeremy's going to love this. The Texans have requested to interview former Eagles OC and current Commanders pass game coordinator Brian Johnson. Eagles fans were pitchforking him out of town last season.
That would be interesting.
All right. Oh, Cullen.
You don't think I didn't
I didn't know if he would do it, so if you joined us in our Monday live show, I told Cullen, tongue-in-cheek, but, it was a minor test. I wasn't going to give him the boot if he didn't do it or anything. But I said, Cullen's crushes, draft prospects, bring at least one to the table each week. Here he is. I didn't even know this was coming. So, Cullen, tell us about the Rutgers running back and why he's your first Cullen crush here on Bears Now.
Yeah. So, look, I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this. If you guys don't even want this information.
If you want more Cullen's crushes, type me in the comments. All right, take it away.
No, I appreciate it. Look, obviously when it comes to draft crushes, right, it's a crush. Things can change right throughout the draft process. But right now, and I'm thinking Bears fan, right? Like I'm thinking, okay, what do the Bears need and everything? I'm also going to say this. I'm not going to say like Travis Hunter is ever going to be a draft crush. Everyone knows like Travis Hunter or like an Abdul Carter or something like that. Like I'm trying to find diamonds in the rough here, Yeah. I'm trying to find guys that, day 2, probably more likely day 3, could fit the
day 2's acceptable. Even late day 1. But hey, Mason Graham, Cullen crush. Like everybody knows who he is.
Like no one cares that your, crush is Sydney Sweeney. Like everybody Like we need to
guess what? Jennifer Aniston's hot.
Yeah, exactly. Congratulations. What a hot take you're spewing.
Find me the TikTok star that no one knows about.
So look, Kyle Monungai is my first draft crush. Obviously, Harry's talked about, the Bears needing another running back. And look, this is kind of my guy. It's crazy. I've done like a couple of just videos with Harry. Obviously, he brought up, some top 10 guys that, or running backs, I should say, that could go day 2. Mel Kiper came out with a list. And Kyle Monungai's name never got mentioned once.
I haven't put him in there. That's hand-up accountability.
I mean, again,
I also just think it points to the depth of this draft at running back.
It is. And it's a very loaded draft class. So, listen, Monungai was a 2-year starter at Rutgers. Listen to these stats. In 2023, because you have the 2024 stats on screen, 242 carries, 1,262 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5.2 average per carry.
Okay.
So he's been consistent running in the Big Ten for now 2 seasons in a row.
It's not like Rutgers O-line is loaded with NFL prospects either.
Yeah, and another note on this, the stat's not on screen. Harry, would you like to guess how many fumbles this guy has throughout his collegiate career?
I'm guessing it's 1 or less.
0.
I
Same
love
as
that.
you and me. Doesn't turn the ball over, and he's a willing pass blocker.
I like that.
Willing pass blocker. Now, he does go head hunting a little bit at times.
I'm okay with that.
He
to an extent.
Listen, after this stream, if you want to look up Kyle Monungai pass blocking reps, there's a couple of clips out there where he is absolutely leveling dudes. But 5'9", 209, he's definitely quicker than he is fast. He shuffles his feet. Hasn't had a lot of production in the receiving game, but that wasn't really Rutgers' offense. They were more or less just kind of full steam ahead. Listen, it depends on how he tested the combine. He's estimated to run a 4.4, 4.5 40, so not the fastest. But the
sub 4.5 is plenty. At 4.5s is fine. I mean.
And one last thing, I'll leave you with this. So PFF, we do kind of their mock drafts and everything. Again, PFF's not the end of the world, but Trevor Sikkema, their leading draft analyst.
He does a nice job. Yeah.
So 3 weeks ago, he said this: Kyle Monungai is not going to be everyone's kind of slice of cake, kind of flavor for every running back. For example, like the Dolphins may not be a fan of this Kyle Monungai guy. But he did mention by name the Detroit Lions would be a system where Kyle Monungai would thrive. He said that 3 weeks ago. When did Ben Johnson get hired away from the Bears? 9 days ago. Ben Johnson obviously working in that system. Again, switches over. He's now a Bears head guy. I think this guy could fit this offense. Again, he doesn't provide the home run ball in the athletic upside that, Harry, I know you're looking for. But I think this guy could be a potential day one contributor to an NFL roster. He is my first weekly draft crush.
Cullen's crushes. Trademarking it here on Bears Now. Type me in the chat. Josh Manning says, let Cullen cook. We got JJ, Dark Cobra, Josh, DeAndre, Nick, Tito, Lacora, Zane Gray, Aaron, Corey, Link, all saying me. So shout out to Cullen in the chat. And here's what we're going to do. It's totally up to Cullen. We go live every Monday and Thursday, at least once per week. I'm going to challenge Cullen to bring a draft crush. If you want to bring one on Monday as well, if you want to bring 2 one day, it's totally up to you. At least one per week. That's my challenge for you. And the audience is going to be expecting it. So no pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
None whatsoever. But yeah, again, the more I just watch this guy, I think he could be a real steal.
I haven't watched him a ton, so that'll be my homework this weekend, to go check out some of his clips and see what's what.
Yeah, and again, he just, the comment that, or I guess like one of the common themes that I've read based on just the draft analysis, he runs like he's angry at the ground. Which,
I love that.
Again, former Rutgers running back Isaiah Pacheco kind of had a similar thing.
And a little David Montgomery.
Yeah, which, by the way, this guy estimated run 4.4, 4.5 or whatever. Montgomery, when he came out, ran a 4.6.
Yeah, I think it was 4.66. So
hey.
Yeah, I'm all for it. One more Rutgers fun fact. Sister-in-law goes to Rutgers. She goes to the Newark campus, but she is what are they, the Scarlet Knights?
Scarlet Knights.
All right, there you go. Shout out to Kyle Monungai. Shout out Cullen. Cullen's crushes, baby. Let's go. Jen, Jervon Dexter doesn't get enough credit for the year he had. Compares numbers to Jalen Carter, including PFF grades. Jervon may break out this year. Yeah, I think Dexter had a pretty good year. I think he kind of flattened out in the middle, then finished strong again. I do think there's a little I see Bears Twitter doing this, of comparing the raw numbers with him and Carter. I think with Trenches players in particular, there has to be more eye test utilization here. Jalen Carter is a better player than Jervon Dexter. We don't have to pretend that that's not the case. Now, if you want to have the argument that getting Darnell Wright and Jervon Dexter versus just getting Jalen Carter, sure, we can have that discussion. But if you're going mano-a-mano, Carter's clearly better. Now, I'm not saying I regret it, because we all bitch about the offensive line. Imagine this offensive line without Darnell Wright. I mean, you'd have nothing. So, I like Jervon. I think after year one, he was like flashy role player. After year two, he's clearly a starter. Can year three, can he be even if not a role all-pro, can he be like what the Pro Bowl used to be, like someone that everyone recognizes as a good player? So we'll see. We'll see. I like the trajectory he's on. I think for where you got him in the middle of the second round, you've gotten your money's worth so far. He's an ascending player with a lot of talent. I think especially, too, Colin, if you get another good pass rusher on that defensive line, that's only going to free up more opportunities for him.
Yeah, 100%. And look,
get Billings back, too.
100%. I think the Bears, we mentioned obviously the interior offensive line that has to improve. Defensive line's not far behind in terms of needing to add more bodies and productive, high-level bodies, too. So, yeah, I think this would be a great move for the Bears. And, look, I think, it's something that if they can get, whether it's, along the other edge, whether it's in the interior, Montez Sweat playing at his best, this is going to make the Bears better.
Yep. He's got to bounce back, no question.
100%.
Buff Cartier, Colin, we need Caleb Johnson. See, I think Colin was in his bag, and he was like, we've talked to Caleb Johnson a lot. My first Cullen crush can't be someone that Harrison has talked about a lot. So,
just trying to mix it up.
Yeah, he's digging deep in the bag. Who knows? Next week, Caleb Johnson could appear on screen. That's the beauty of Cullen crushes. You don't know who's coming next. So, that's going to be a staple on the show between now and the draft. So be on the lookout for that. Every Monday and Thursday, our live shows. In between segments, he will be letting those rip. All right, final segment of the day coming up. My mock offseason for the Chicago Bears. If you send any super chats in, we'll answer those on the way out, and then we will call it a day. Let's get into it here on Bears Now. You guys asked for it. I'm going to deliver it. Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. It is time for a mock off season. I've done a perfect off season. I did a dream off season with Ben Johnson. This is going to be more of a, hey, this is the Bears cap situation. Here's what they can do with their money to add certain players via the draft, free agency, contract extensions, etc. Let's kind of dive into the nuts and bolts here first, which is, what does it look like right now? Well, they roughly have around $69 million in cap space. We don't know what the exact 2025 salary cap number is going to be just yet. That won't be announced for a few weeks here. So once we have that information, we will pass that along. The Bears could get above $80 million in projected cap space with a few cuts, maneuvers, etc. Obviously, Bears got 8 draft picks, including 3 in the top 41 picks. So good draft capital for Ryan Poles to work with this year as well. The full arsenal of draft picks, is as follows. I mentioned the 3 top 41 picks. You got that Panthers second in there. Got 72 as well. No 4th rounders as of now. Got a 5th, a 6th, and then 2 in the 7th. And a little side note, if Ian Cunningham does become the Jags GM, that would add a 3rd round pick this year and one next year. So that would only give the Bears more draft ammunition. Who's excited for the offseason? I know it's kind of been here for a few weeks, but, this coaching staff's rounding into form. Senior Bowl's been going on. Draft and free agency just around the corner. I'm fired up. I'm pumped up. Going to be a lot of fun here on this channel. If you agree, hit that like button. Okay, Bears mock offseason time. Number 1, to increase your cap, I'm cutting Gerald Everett and Ryan Bates. You just did not get what you signed up for with Gerald Everett. Sometimes it doesn't work out for whatever reason. The player declines. The team doesn't know what to do with them. But you could save $5.5 million by cutting him. It's just the guy didn't have 100 yards receiving. I think he's an obvious cut. And then Ryan Bates at $4 million. I could see a scenario where you cut him and then bring him back on a cheaper deal to be a top backup interior guy. Maybe you bring him back for $1-2 million if he hits the market and doesn't find a deal. But he had an arthritic shoulder. He was in concussion protocol. I just think $4 million for a guy who basically didn't play for you last year. Sucks you lost the 5th round pick in that trade, but it kind of just is what it is. You save $9.5 million to trade 2 guys that essentially gave you nothing last year. So to me, that's a no-brainer. Could there be a situation where Ben Johnson comes in and says, I can do this with Gerald Everett, I can do that with Ryan Bates? Of course, but to me, I think these are 2 obvious cuts. $10 million, that could be a high-level starter. That could be 2 contributors, whereas last year it was 2 nothings with Gerald Everett and Ryan Bates. That would get you to just under $80 million in projected cap space, which has you in a very good position as the offseason really gets ramped up with free agency and the NFL draft. Okay, let's get into free agency. I'm signing 2 starters on the interior offensive line. Trey Smith, who we've talked about, Drew Dahlman, who we've talked about. We'll start with Trey Smith here. Or actually, we'll take a look at the offensive line depth chart here. Darnell Wright's going to be here. Braxton Jones is under contract. Whether he's a starter or not, that remains to be seen. But your entire interior is free agents, and you need a reboot there. Now, could you bring back a Matt Pryor as a backup? Could Coleman Shelton be back as a bridge guy if you don't get a Drew Dahlman and you draft somebody? Perhaps. Could Tevin return depending on how his market is? Maybe. But I'm trying to get fresh blood in here and high-level players. And Trey Smith, to me, is by far the best free agent target for the Bears. You know, you could say T. Higgins if you look at all the free agents as number one. Well, the Bears aren't signing T. Higgins. He's a receiver. They don't need to swing big for a receiver. This was my contract projection for him. ESPN had the report the other day that the teams expect the Bears to be in on Trey Smith. 22 a year, it would reset the guard market. I think that's what you need to do with him. And I think he's worth it because he's been a stalwart on that offensive line. He's gotten better every single year in Kansas City. And something that we haven't talked about with Trey Smith that he would bring to this team that you need more of, he's been around winning. At minimum, he will have 2 Super Bowls and maybe 3 if he beats the Eagles. That's valuable. I'd like to get some guys in here who have not only played well in this league, but have won in this league as well. Drew Dahlman. PFF projects 4 years, $46 million, $12 million bucks per year. We'll see. Some of their contract projections this year to me have felt wonky. This one makes sense, though. I mean, he'll get upper echelon center money because he's the best one on the market. He's an excellent run blocker. His pass blocking's gotten better. He's not tremendous there, but he's gotten to a point where he's at least average to above average there. Only gave up 2 sacks and had 3 penalties this year. I think he's a pretty darn good player. This plugs 2 holes immediately. Starting center, which I think, even if it's not some incredible, massive upgrade, it's definitely an upgrade over Coleman Shelton. And Trey Smith over the Nate Davis, Matt Pryor situation is a clear upgrade. Like, Trey Smith is a top 5, top 6 guard in this league, which those guys rarely hit the open market. So center to right tackle, you're good if you make these moves. So I would do that right away. And if you're taking what they'd be making per year at face value, you'd be a little less than $50 million bucks. Obviously, the way Poles and his staff can manipulate the contracts if they want to backload them, whatever. You could have more, you could have less, depending on how they negotiate. I'll just kind of put it, you'd be roughly at $50 million in cap after cutting the 2 players and signing these 2 guys, aka still a ton of money to work with the rest of free agency and your draft class. All right, more moves to come in my mock offseason for the Chicago Bears, but I want to tell you guys about today's sponsor. That is PrizePicks. Guys, get in on all of the action for all major sporting events, including the big game coming up. You set lineups of 2 or more players. Pick more, pick less on the stat projections available with PrizePicks. If you have football players, you've got receiving yards, passing yards, touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, passing touchdowns, whatever the case may be. Pick more, pick less. If you're using a basketball player in your lineup, points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, hockey, goals, etc., assists. Pick more, pick less. You can win up to 1,000 times your money on certain lineups with PrizePicks right now. Yes, that's $10 turning into $10,000 if you win. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get a $50 bonus when you play for just $5 if you're a new customer. And how about this deal? Half a passing yard for Patrick Mahomes. I'm a big fan of 2-player lineups because they're easier to hit. I love it in this case because you're already halfway home to a win. Pair that with something else, and you are going to win some money. Again, if you play for just $5 as a new customer, doesn't even matter if you win or lose that first lineup that you submit. You're going to get an additional $50 into your account for free play. Check out PrizePicks today. Link is in the comments and in the description. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS right now. Okay, maybe a little controversial here. How about sign Chase Young? Chase Young has been connected to the Bears seemingly forever. Years ago, because Justin Fields played with them. Last year at the trade deadline, they opted to trade for Montez Sweat instead. Last offseason, because he was a free agent and he had familiarity with Montez Sweat. And I think again here, because A, he had a pretty good season last year, and B, he played under Dennis Allen last year. I think this is a contract projection that I've put together that makes sense for both parties. 2 years, $30 million, $15 a year. You get 18.5 guaranteed, so you get 1 full guaranteed year and a little on the second year. So if it doesn't work out, he at least gets a little extra coin for that second year. He was 7th in the NFL in pressures, guys. Like, that's pretty damn good. Now, he only had 5.5 sacks, but, like, if you told me right now, hey, Chase Young's going to give you 5 to 8 sacks, and he's going to pressure the quarterback consistently, I get it. His motor at times has been questioned. He's hit and miss against the run, but, like, you don't need him to dominate. $15 million, just go be a good player. You've played with Sweat before. You've played under Dennis Allen. His measurables fit what Dennis Allen likes. He can start opposite of Montez Sweat. DeMarcus Walker can be that number 5 defensive lineman that he always should have been when they brought him in here, which is a great role for him because he can play all along the defensive line. You feel a lot better about that group, and he played all 17 games last year. We talked about the familiarity with Dennis Allen's scheme, playing with Montez Sweat. They seem pretty tight. I kind of had soured on Chase Young because when he went to the 49ers, there were some effort issues, didn't play that well. Kind of signed a one-year prove-it deal with New Orleans, played pretty well, stayed healthy, top 10 in pressures, decent sack production. I'm in. He's only 25. It feels like he's 30. He's 25 years old. You might still be able to find a long-term piece here. So I think a 2-year deal is fair, and it kind of leaves you, in a better spot entering the draft. Like, okay, we don't have to go pass rusher here if we don't love the board or whatever the case may be. You'd still have about $35 million in cap space if you made this move. Kind of all in on this if the price tag isn't too hefty. Okay, subscribe to the channel. Full Bears offseason coverage coming at you here at Chicago Bears Now. Latest news, rumors, coaching staff additions, mock drafts, free agency. It's heating up. Stick with us here on Chicago Bears Now. Okay, trade down from number 10 and draft Tyler Booker. Daniel Jeremiah in his recent mock draft had the Bears taking Booker at 10, which I'd be okay with. I don't think it's incredible value. I think he's probably more worthy of like 15 to 20 right now, 15 to 25. But if you took him at 10, it's a safe, solid pick. Trading down would be ideal, though. Like if you could trade down to like 16, 18, if a team's willing to move up and then get him there, maybe add a second or third round pick. Again, I think that's the sweet spot in this draft. Then you've really kind of loaded up on your offensive line. We already talked about Trey Smith and Drew Dahlman. Now you add Tyler Booker. Do we have that, what the offensive line could look like here if you end up making that move? I mean, this is pretty good, man. Braxton Jones, Tyler Booker, Drew Dahlman, Trey Smith, Darnell Wright. I mean, no one's putting that group in Canton, but it's a lot better than what you've had. And, we could debate Braxton Jones. I think if he's healthy, he's an average to above average left tackle. And if he goes from being a guy you need out there to, he's the weak link, you're feeling a lot better. I think the interior needs to take the priority. I can live with Braxton Jones for one more year. Now, if you told me that they signed Ronnie Stanley or they draft Will Campbell, Josh Simmons, Kelvin Banks to upgrade, I'm not going to complain about it. I just think the interior was the bigger issue last year. Now, the one thing that I don't have access to that the Bears do is what exactly Braxton Jones' medical status is. Is he going to miss a lot of the offseason? Is he going to be ready for training camp? If those things are in question, okay, then left tackle becomes a bigger issue. But if you told me that you get Tyler Booker, Trey Smith, and Drew Dahlman this offseason to pair with Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones, upgrade left tackle next year, maybe Karan Amagaji pushes Jones this year. Who knows? Maybe you sign someone else to push him. I would be pretty happy with that outcome if that's how it ended up playing out. Who should the Bears draft in round 1? I like the trade down for Booker scenario. Obviously, it's not like I'm all in on that scenario. I'm flexible here. What say you? Let me know in the comments section below. Okay, and then something I've said for weeks now is I want to take a running back on the second day. Second round, third round, wherever it is. I think that's the sweet spot for the running backs in this draft. Everybody loves Ashton Genty, me included. I was tweeting highlights of him in September, and then everybody got on the train. I'd rather go a trenches player in round 1, all things equal, because look at all these guys. Most of these guys, if not all of them, maybe Hampton goes round 1. We'll see. A lot of these guys are going to be available when the Bears pick at 39, 41, and some will be available when they pick at 72, like Devin Neal and Ollie Gordon and Damian Martinez, who's a stud, and Judkins and Henderson could fall to the third round. So I'd like to end up with one of these players on day 2, pair with DeAndre Swift, and I just got to think, knowing where Ben Johnson comes from, Dan Campbell, hard-nosed, wanting to run the football. I think everybody thinks Ben Johnson is just this finesse trick play guy. Obviously, he's going to work that into his play calling. he wants to run the football. Like, they paid David Montgomery twice and drafted Jahmyr Gibbs top 15 for a reason, because they want to run the football with different type of backs. That's why I want a physical downhill runner to pair with DeAndre Swift. That would be my ideal scenario. I'd be shocked if Johnson didn't push for this with Ryan Poles to get someone on day 2 of the NFL draft to pair with his current running back. Just some other moves, go a little rapid fire. I like the idea of Marquise Brown on a cheap 1 or 2 year deal, $6 to $8 million per year. He missed most of the season with injury, shouldn't cost you a ton. I think a Kyler Gordon extension makes a lot of sense. You should have some extra salary cap there. You can get that done. You know, is he a $10 million a year player? I'm not sure as a nickel. I would rather do it now than after this year, because I think he's really going to be unlocked with Dennis Allen. Draft competition at left tackle. Like I said, I don't think you have to fix left tackle, but there's some guy in the 3rd, 4th round, if you get a 4th round pick, that you think is intriguing. I don't know, an Emory Jones out of LSU. I know he played right tackle there. Someone like that who had a down year this year, but was previously thought of as a high-level player. You know, I'd be open to that. That also depends on how they feel about Amagaji. Draft a defensive tackle on day 2. Really just defensive lineman. Even if you get a Chase Young, I think adding somebody to that front 4 is going to be important. And then get some depth at tight end, whether it's in free agency, the draft, whatever. Maybe it's one of each. If it's the draft, probably day 3. Free agency. Who's the best blocking free agent tight end? That's who I want. It can't cost that much. Maybe it's Mercedes Lewis for another year. I don't know. If it is, he's going to be your tight end 3 at his age, obviously. But, the last 2 years, Robert Tonyan and Gerald Everett have been complete whiffs. Maybe some of that's coaching. I don't know. But you got to get better behind Cole Kmet, because you've just asked him to be your blocker, your receiving tight end, and this year didn't even throw to him. It was just bizarre. There you go. Grade my mock off season. A, B, C, D, or F. How do you guys think I did? What would you do differently? Let me know in the comment section below, and hit that subscribe button. We will continue to bring you guys videos on a daily basis here on this channel. So subscribe to Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Adam, appreciate the super chat. What happens with Tyson Bagent? I don't think anything. I think he's your backup. You've got him under contract for 1 more year. I think he's the backup. Will Ben Johnson want to bring in some kind of vet? They'll probably bring in some kind of Brett Rippon again for like the offseason. They obviously have what's his name? Austin Reed. Yeah, Austin Reed, who's on the practice squad. Yep. He's on a futures deal. Maybe they want to bring in some older guy to, even if he's not likely to make the roster. I don't know who that is, but I expect Bagent to be the backup. He's cheap and he's solid, so I think that's what they'll go with. Iowa G says, what do you think of Tyler Warren? I think he's a badass. I mean, I don't think I'd do it, but if they took him at 10, it'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it would.
I think you have bigger needs, but him and you run a lot of 12 personnel. Him, Kmet with Rome and DJ.
A little wildcat there, maybe too.
Use him in different ways. I mean, I'll say this: look, I love Rome, but you could argue that Bowers would have been a better pick.
Yeah.
So
could have been.
Time will tell. It's 1 year, but.
Louis says no. Cullen, he loves the FGB for one. I don't know where you got that information from, but
no. What about Bill Murray for the O-line?
Yeah.
When he played well. Backup guy. He won't cost you anything.
Bring him into camp.
Yeah, I mean, he feels kind of like a, roster bubble guy. And that's what he was last year. He earned a roster spot.
Yep.
I do like the idea of bringing Matt Pryor back. I think he showed enough last year that he can be a good top backup. If he's your top swing guard, those guys are valuable. So, all right, Patricio, then we are going to get out of here.
Very productive day today.
Give Ian Wheeler an actual shot at being RB2. Yeah, I mean, look, he'll get a chance to compete. He is coming off a torn ACL, though. Patricio, any O-lineman worth trading up for? I don't really think so. I mean, is there a lineman you would trade up for from 10?
For me, no. No, I mean,
I like the guys you could get at 10, but, I don't think I'm trading up for Will Campbell.
No.
If he's gone, he's
or
gone.
Banks or any of those
Banks, Simmons.
Yeah.
I almost like I said, I almost like the idea of trading down.
Yeah.
Getting one of those guys or Booker in like 15 or 16.
I will say, I was like trying to do some offensive tackle, like watching, and McShay came out and said that he was a big Josh Connolly fan. Him getting blown up, what was it, yesterday?
Yeah.
In the Senior Bowl, like I just can't get that out of my head.
It's one rep.
But it was a bad
He got
rep.
crushed.
There's bad rep.
Maybe he'll dip to 39 and the Bears can take him there.
He'd be a good steal.
I like Connerly. I just think Green is like a unique player too.
Yeah.
Talk about guy. You talk about Monungai running angry. That guy rushes angry.
Yes. Exactly.
He just tore it up for 2 days at the Senior Bowl and said deuces. I'm out of here. I'm a first-round pick. I'll see you guys in April. All right, we are out of here. We are throwing up the deuces, Mike Green style. Shout out to you guys for tuning in. Shout out to Cullen, launching Cullen's Crushes today. Be on the lookout for that moving forward. My name is Harrison Graham. Enjoy your weekend. No football this weekend. Feels weird. Pro Bowl doesn't count.
Doesn't feel right.
Pro Bowl does not count. So college basketball will have to do, I guess. So we'll see you guys soon. Bear down.